How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I am your host, Richie. Today we're going to talk about a preview of tonight's American League Championship Series between the Cleveland Guardians and my New York Yankees. I'm also going to give you a preview of tonight's Monday Night Football game between the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills, as well as a detailed rundown of the happenings in yesterday's action in the National Football League. And we're going to start it up in what I titled, potentially, the NFC Least. It is hard to believe that the New York Football Giants and the Dallas Cowboys are both winless at home at this juncture of the year, but that is exactly what it is. Both of these organizations have seemed to come up with pretty good road victories, only to be followed by just real duds at home. I think it's more troubling in the Giants' case, as Daniel Jones drops to 1-14 in his career in primetime games, the only victory coming in 2022 on a Thursday night victory in Washington, D.C., a victory that ultimately got the Giants the upper hand that they held on to for that year's wild card position, one of the wild cards. It's been a really horrendous deal for Daniel Jones after getting that contract, playing at home. No touchdowns thrown at MetLife Stadium since 2022 against the Indianapolis Colts in a game where the Giants clinched a playoff spot. As the Cowboys go, they were exploited yesterday. The Detroit Lions essentially had their way in every phase of the game, whether it was special teams, defense, or offense. But it didn't come without a hefty price, as pass rushing specialist Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg yesterday, and he's going to be out indefinitely, possibly the duration of the season. So here at the show, we wish him the best of luck in getting his body right and returning. The Lions are definitely a Super Bowl contender this year, and you never like to see those kind of injuries go down. The Washington Commanders, a team that has been getting their praises sang on pretty much every football network as well as every publication, gets their most worthy opponent yesterday in the form of the Baltimore Ravens. That, of course, is the Beltway rivalry. And while it was a one-score victory in favor of the Ravens, I personally don't think the Ravens were ever in trouble. And, the Giants and Cowboys both squander an opportunity to hang right next to the Commanders by both getting blown out at home. Philadelphia Eagles were the only team to win in this division. However, it was not an impressive victory, as they welcome back Devontae Smith as well as wide receiver A.J. Brown. And, the Browns right now, if the season were to end, would be picking first overall. But, an ugly win is better than no win at all. Focusing on the game-to-game metrics yesterday, the Bengals and Giants, it was an ugly game. I think the sad thing is the Giants' defense played well enough to win, and Daniel Jones just could not make the big throw when it counted most. Andrew Thomas, the all-pro offensive tackle for the Giants, getting an MRI done today on his foot. He said that he was laboring, and it was the worst performance of his season. Giants' offensive line has played every game together, and they have been a solid unit. Bright spot in defeat, Dexter Lawrence gets within a half sack of the aforementioned Aiden Hutchinson for the NFL lead in sacks. I do believe that Dexter Lawrence will definitely get heavy consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. But it's the same old tune with the Giants. This team just cannot score enough points. And it was very disconcerting to see the way that things went down yesterday. The division on the whole right now, I truly don't see any of these teams in the East that I can consider to be a legitimate threat to represent the conference in the Super Bowl. Coming up next week for the G-Men, they will be welcoming Saquon Barkley back. Big divisional game against the Philadelphia Eagles. One thing I could say is that based on the way the Giants have done things this year, it probably is a game that they might end up winning because it absolutely makes no sense. But I certainly would not pick the Giants to win right now because of their offensive ineptitude. And I have to believe that number 26, Saquon Barkley, is going to be pretty revved up for that one. What is exciting is that it's going to be a running back showcase because Tyrone Tracy has been really stepping up. The converted wide receiver who is now a running back has definitely stepped up, and it does appear that he's going to be the lead back moving forward, even when Devin Singletary does return. I figure it will be a split backfield, but I think Tracy definitely is the alpha of the two. NFC East is in a tough place right now, but oddly enough, it really is anyone's division still. I'm going to move it along to a division that's actually worthy of praising right now. What's up, Nunez? As well as it could be. Definitely not a victory Monday, but things are okay, thank God. Moving it along to the NFC North. Detroit Lions, massive, massive win in Arlington, Texas yesterday against the Cowboys. Green Bay Packers looking every bit of a Super Bowl contender as every week and every snap that Jordan Love continues to take, it seems that he just gets closer and closer to his form of last year. And the Packers' defense has really been exceptional. The Chicago Bears, for the first time in, I believe, over 50 years, score 5 touchdowns in 2 consecutive games. They made light work of the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars. And I got to think, with one coach getting fired already, that being Robert Saleh, I've got to think, truly, truly got to think, that Doug Peterson out in Jacksonville could very much feel his seat getting warm right now, as they just have not been able to put together a full, complete game after the majority of my panel actually had these guys winning the division. Zappy and myself both picked the Jaguars to win this division, but they look just awful, god-awful. Yeah, the Cowboys have been blown out a couple of times this year, Nunez, and with all the defensive injuries, they are definitely getting exploited. I feel that they cannot deal with a high-powered offense right now, and it's been proven. You know, their defense has played well against offenses that are not that gifted. My New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers stand out. I want to talk about some deadline options for some of these teams that are going to be looking to make Super Bowl runs. I'll start with Detroit. Myles Garrett or Max Crosby would be a huge addition to this team in the absence of Aiden Hutchinson. So I do believe keep an eye out for that. I know that one of my 2 co-hosts, Mike Zappy, has made mention that Amari Cooper going back to Dallas could definitely make some sense. And, this is anybody's division in the East, so I would say that there's a distinct possibility that you're going to see some of these teams falling out of the race, moving on from some big stars. So in Cleveland's case, I would say Myles Garrett as well as Amari Cooper, very much so, both on the trade block. And I wouldn't be that surprised if once Nick Chubb returns, which could possibly be this next week coming up, that he too might be on the hot seat. On the trade block. Stefanski's safe. I was thinking about head coaches and hot seats, but Stefanski's safe. None of this is his fault, what's going on. Yeah, next man up mentality, but the reality is not every next man up is created equal. Some teams just don't have the depth to endure these kind of injuries. And you're going to see it in the Giants' case with Andrew Thomas. If he misses some games coming up here, as the month of October into November moves, Giants are going to very much fall out of the race. We cannot afford to lose the best offensive lineman on this team. But unfortunately, I think that's the way it's going to go. This is a guy who's been marred with injuries to the ankles and to the feet. This is very worrisome for the G-men. And just an injury that they cannot afford right now. On the bright side of things, I believe that Malik Neighbors will be returning for our game. Should be a good one. Definitely a winnable game because both of our teams have many imperfections, but it should be an exciting one. Yeah, 26 will be coming back. I expect a mixed reaction because he was loved amongst Giant fans, but I know that there's a lot of hurt feelings as well. So it should be interesting to see how Barkley is received. Back to the North. I think the NFC North right now, you can make a logical argument, is absolutely the best division in professional football. Caleb Williams, after a slow start to his career, has really been stepping up. Jordan Love, after the magical run last year for the Packers and after getting an injury scare this year, missing a few games, he has full command of that offense. That Green Bay secondary is really good. Their defense on the whole is really good. The Bears defense has really been stepping up. And the Bears also have quite the receiving corps. So as of right now, I think there's a distinct possibility that you could see all three teams. It's not out of the question that all four can make it, but the North should be sending three. The Vikings, who didn't play this week after their England game, those guys are on a bye. They're one of the remaining two undefeated teams in the NFL. And of course, the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated. Thinking about a couple of other scenarios where you might see some player movement. Davante Adams, the disgruntled, embattled wide receiver of the Vegas Raiders. Could there be a situation where he gets reunited with his former quarterbacks? There's two of them, but personally, I think the logical guess could be that he goes to East Rutherford to join the Jets. It's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out. And in terms of what I'm seeing tonight, I got the Buffalo Bills winning. Excuse me. 27-23. I think it might be a little more high scoring than some are projecting. After all the stuff that has gone down, and now with Nathaniel Hackett getting play calling duty stripped of him, and the firing of Robert Saleh, Aaron Rodgers is a prime competitor regardless of age, and I expect him to play much better tonight. But I think the Bills just have a little bit more, and I expect a big game out of Josh Allen. Khalil Shakir looks like it might be coming down to a game-time decision for him. He is a much-needed slot man. Buffalo's offense has not looked right when he is not in the lineup, and Curtis Samuel, among others, have not been able to pick up the slack for the missing Shakir. But I like Buffalo to get out of there with a 4-point dub. Also, what I got going on in the East, New England Patriots finally get Drake May in there. It looks like the Drake May era is underway. Dolphins are on the bye. I'm not going to completely write off the Dolphins yet because of the fact that Tua Tagovailoa might be coming back in the next week or two. And Buffalo's been slumping after the hot start. The Jets' offense is non-existent right now. They got to figure out what they're doing over there. But Miami does have the potential to get back into the race. Out north, Pittsburgh Steelers had a nice response after losing a heartbreaker to the Cowboys. They were just too much in every phase of the game for the Vegas Raiders. I feel bad because I think Antonio Pierce, who is a good coach, is going to get ultimately to be a casualty of the ineptitude of the Raider organization. He started off good last year, good finish last year, big win over the Chiefs last year. But between the controversy of Davante Adams and that team still not finding a franchise quarterback, losing a running back like Josh Jacobs to the Packers, I believe the Raiders are going to be moving on from AP. But he is a very wise coach. He's a very hungry coach, and I think he will find a new home in the near future. I also am going to make this claim right now. I have a feeling that Brian Flores is going to get a head coaching job after this season, given the job that he's been doing with the Minnesota Vikings. They have to undeniably be the surprise of the year, being undefeated. Defensive struggle down in the Mile High City as the Los Angeles Chargers barely edged out the Denver Broncos. Denver was enjoying a 3-game winning streak. But it's still the Chiefs' division. They are head and shoulders better than any team in that division and possibly any team in the league. But I do like what Harbaugh has brought to the Chargers. They have become a tough-nosed bunch that is learning how to win a lot of these 50-50 close games. Taking the ball out of the hands of Justin Herbert more, and you're seeing just a lot more ground and pound. They've been running the ball. J.K. Dobbins, after the 2 horrendous leg injuries, all the way back now, and they're becoming a team that has quite an attitude, and they are taking on the personality of their coach. So I really like what he's doing. And given their defense and the way they're playing, I got to think that the Los Angeles Chargers are definitely a wild card contender this year. Because when you look at what's going on in the AFC East as well as the NFC East, I think both Eastern divisions are only going to be sending one team to the playoffs. It seems like a lot of the depth is definitely in other divisions that are not the East. AFC is so saturated with talent and a lot of teams that are going to be fighting for these final playoff spots. I know it's not even the midway point yet, but just things that I'm foreseeing. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, undeniably the two best quarterbacks on Sunday. Spencer Rattler had some moments, and I'm sure although the Saints just endured their fourth consecutive loss, got to be some smiles of the fans of the Saints knowing that they have a quarterback of the future to take over after Derek Carr is gone. As the Lions go, as the Buccaneers go, high-powered offenses. A reason why I think the Lions are going to be making a deal for a Crosby or a Myles Garrett is predicated off of the fact that although they are scoring the most points, they are also giving up the most points. They got to shore up their defense to make a championship run. And as Tampa goes, if you really look at that roster, they still have a decent amount of holdovers from the Super Bowl team back in 20 that Brady took to the top. Baker Mayfield has just been sensational for most of this season, getting the most out of Chris Godwin as well as Mike Evans. And their defense has just been astounding. Bucky Irving taking over the number one running back duties. And I'll be honest, defense wins championships. So I definitely think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are every bit of a Super Bowl contender if and when the playoffs begin, because they are just really playing at a high level right now. And Baker Mayfield is just one of the great stories in the NFL. And it's pretty remarkable that Cleveland gave up on Baker. When you look at who they got now, they gave him the massive quarterback deal that kind of reset the market, talking about Deshaun Watson. And right now, the Cleveland Browns, if the season were to end today, would be picking first in the NFL draft. So while the majority of my panel picked the Browns to finish last because of the absence of Chubb and because of the inconsistencies of the overpaid Deshaun Watson, I do believe that
You want me to add creamer to it? Do you want me to add creamer to it?
Sorry about that, guys. I had to mute my mic. Where was I? I was speaking on the performances of Jared Goff as well as Baker Mayfield. Definitely the two best quarterbacks this past week. And I also believe that both these men will be in high consideration for the MVP award. Moving it along, I honestly believe that both these teams are definitely probably locks for the playoffs, but Detroit has got to shore up their defense if they're going to hold serve and be able to hang with the Bears and the Packers. I think the Bears and the Packers are more complete right now. I like the Bills in the AFC East, as I already kind of alluded to. I don't think it's a great division. I just think Buffalo has the most of what they need. But when I think about true contenders right now, that teams that could dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs, it's a very short list. I'm going to take a team from each conference. I believe that The Baltimore Ravens are a big-time challenger to the Kansas City Chiefs after their slow start. I really like what I've seen from them. And I think the Green Bay Packers out in the NFC, given their defensive prowess and given their recent history going back to last year when they had a huge victory against those same Chiefs, I believe the Packers definitely bode as a true contender to beat them should they cross paths in the Super Bowl. A little more of an outside shot. I do think Buffalo, because they're a little more under the radar and because some of their expectations have been tapered down, I do think that the Buffalo Bills could potentially beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's not really a huge list. I'm still not buying Houston completely as a true Super Bowl contender, although things have been going well for them. I don't really have the highest opinion of their particular division. Moving it along to the American League Championship Series, tonight the Yankees take the field in hot pursuit of trophy number 28. Yesterday they saw their baby brothers, the New York Mets, get drubbed out by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just a true dominant victory for the Dodgers. And I must admit, the way the Dodgers pitching is right now, and as much as it pains me to say this, not only do I think they're going to make short work of the New York Mets right now based on what we're seeing, I also think that whoever wins between the Guardians and the Yankees will succumb to the Dodgers. The Dodgers basically have an all-star at every position, and they are just so deep. As tonight's game goes, I think this is pivotal. Of course it's pivotal. It's the playoffs. It's the Final Four of baseball. But if Carlos Rodon can avoid the one bad inning, and he said that he really honed in on Garrett Cole's performance, if Rodon can be the dude that the Yankees paid to be a 1A, so to speak, and if the Yankees could get the victory tonight, I believe that there is no reason to believe why they shouldn't be up 2-0 going back to Cleveland, because Garrett Cole, who is the best pitcher, in my opinion, in the American League, he'll be getting the ball game too. Yanks cannot afford to be mediocre at home as they were for a good chunk of the regular season. Yankees did post the best record in the American League on the road, but in these playoffs, you got to take advantage of having home field, and you got to win your games at home. I'm going with a final score tonight of the Yankees 6 and the Guardians 4, but I think that this series does have the potential to go 7, but I'm predicting Yankees in 6. Yankees will finish this thing within 6 games. I really believe that. An advantage that I give Cleveland going into this is that, in my opinion, in terms of depth, they have the best bullpen in all of Major League Baseball. I think the Yankees have the advantage in the starting, and I also think that the Yankees have the advantage in terms of overall power. But a big thing that you have to be leery of when you play in Yankee Stadium, guys like Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, they got to avoid the cheap home runs. The left and right field corners are the shortest in all of MLB. So, an innocent fly ball could get over the wall. So, these guys are going to have to keep the ball on the ground, and they're going to have to get a lot of swing and misses. Definitely a lot of swing and misses is going to be necessary for the Yankees to take care of business tonight. Gonna definitely be interesting. Before I get out of here, I wanted to ask your guys' thoughts on the return of Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle back to MSG. It was just a preseason game. And as many of you know, Dante DiVincenzo is best friends with current Knicks point guard and future captain, Mr. Jalen Brunson. There was a heated exchange between Brunson's dad, Rick, and Dante as the game ended. I personally think that there's still some hurt feelings. This trade just went down less than 2 weeks ago. And Dante DiVincenzo's coming off a career year. And, he was looking forward to being reunited with Mikal Bridges. He already had his 2 other Nova guys with him in the form of Josh Hart and Brunson. I think it's just more than anything a competitive nature and some tough feelings because Dante did not want to get traded. It was nice to see both he and Julius Randle get a nice ovation from the Garden crowd. I believe that, it's a fact. Julius Randle put the Knicks back on the map. But with the emergence of Jalen Brunson and the opportunity to get a big-time scorer, big man in the form of Karl Anthony Towns, who actually grew up a Knicks fan. I think it was something that the Knicks just could not afford to pass up. Initially, they wanted to move on from Mitchell Robinson in that deal, but the Wolves weren't having it. I would not rule out the possibility of DiVincenzo returning to the Knicks in a couple of years when his current contract is up. But you got to see, because I am not too sure what the temperature is, so to speak, between him and Tom Thibodeau, head coach. As from some sources, it does appear that Dante DiVincenzo was kind of aiming low in an argument and might have some hard feelings thinking that Tom Thibodeau was behind the trade. But at the end of the day, it's not a popularity contest. You got to do what's best for the team. And when you have a captain who took a monumental pay cut, leaving so much money on the table so the Knicks could go out and get more big names, it's hard to believe that the Knicks are above, moving guys around regardless of personal feelings and friendships on the team. Announcements to come for our next show. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the American League Championship Series as well as Monday Night Football.